welcome to the Hands Up If You're Human podcast, dedicated to exploring and celebrating the messy reality of being human. And welcome to our new Inalienable Truths series of episodes. These episodes are going to be 10 to 15 minutes, and they're going to go out the week after our main episode. I am here with Lisa. Hello, Lisa. How are you?
Yeah, all good.
Good. Thank you very much for facilitating, enabling, allowing me to do these episodes, because these are very much my passion, maybe, is these inalienable truths. And for those of you, obviously this is the first one of the series, so I will give a very quick explainer. For the vast majority of my life, anyone who's listened to the episode 6, the vast majority of my life, I was not taking responsibility for my life. Lots of things happened and I felt put upon, and I always had a great story and a great reason as to why it wasn't my fault, as to why it wasn't my responsibility to do anything about it. And then I reached that point in my life where I was so miserable and thought I had it all figured out, and those two things didn't line up for me. So I posed myself the question, how's that working out? And then posed myself the challenge of, what do I do with it? But what I had to do with it was challenge everything I thought I believed. Everything I believed to be true. If it were true, my life would be miserable for the rest of my life. I didn't believe that to be true. So I went in search of pulling aside all the stories we tell ourselves about any situation, about our lives, about other people, and attempted to get to a truth in the middle of it. And that is what these episodes are going to be about. Last year, I wrote a book called The Companion Book of Inalienable and Often Inconvenient Truths. It contains 50 of these 1 or 2 line truths that I believe to be inalienable. There is no challenging them once we sit with them. So, Lisa, you've read the companion book. And I'm just throwing this at you now, we haven't done any prep on this. What's your expectation for these episodes?
Well, what I love about the book in the first place is that you don't have to read it from page 1 to the end. Mm-hmm. So you can literally, one of those where you can flick it open and then you read one of them, yeah, and then you go, oh, that gives me time to ponder and reflect. Yeah. Am I behaving in that way? Why do I behave? It opens up a great opportunity for contemplation, basically. So I like you said, you're not going to go from 1 to 50. You are, yeah, literally going to go, literally like you pick one. Yeah. So I'm going to have no prep for it, and I just think that's probably the best way for me to be really authentic in my response. Yeah. Show my humanness, or how that possibly lands with me or doesn't land with me, or how I'm making it work or not work in my life.
Brilliant. And that, I think, is the intention. They are simply here to give us something to reflect on, to carry with us for a week, for a day, for a minute, however long it might be, and allow it to reverberate within us, to see how we feel about it. Many of them I resisted for a very long time. And it was only through considerable reflection and, again, looking to pull aside the story we tell ourselves that fills in the blanks, that I got to a point where I believe them all to be true. So while I'm not going to go from 1 to 50, I am going to start with the first one in the book. And the first one is, the truth will set you free. But first, it's going to piss you off. How does that land? What does that initially conjure?
Well, I'm going to be absolutely honest, resistance.
Yeah, go on.
I feel quite tense going, but I actually believe that the truth does set you free. I think that comes down to not colouring it in to fit your own narrative, to fit something that makes it more, whatever you're dealing with life, more comfortable to deal with. It's like, actually, you've got to look at this face on, whatever that situation is. What's my part to play in it?
Yeah.
It's okay to look at what other people's part were to play in it as well. Like, I'm not saying like a situation that comes up in life is, but actually it means you've got to kind of go in there, got to go and do some work. But the surrender and the freedom that comes when you found that gem, that like, oh, okay, yes, all right, I've probably been resisting this truth for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Space.
It's a really interesting one. For me, it was really difficult because I didn't understand what any of the component parts meant. It's like, what is truth? I was very rigid in what I believed to be to be the kind of truth in the world. So somebody like you, I've said it lots of times, I would have dismissed. We would not have been friends 10 years ago because I was convinced that if you can't prove it, it's not real. So that was one of my truths. But the idea of this, the truth will set you free. Well, what is the truth? And what am I being set free from?
And what do you think that is?
Well, I think one of the big things for me was recognizing that I don't know anything. I was so convinced in the story that said, well, you know what's going on, you know how the world works, you know this, and this, you know how this person thinks, you know how this person reacts, you can predict what's going to happen in this situation. Recognizing that I've filled in 99% of that certainty, because we only ever get a tiny piece of information that we build a story around. But those certainties are the very limits of what's possible for me. So if I refuse to believe anything that cannot be proven scientifically, then I rob myself of any potential surprises or moments of magic. And the truth is science only knows so much, can only prove so much, because it's an evolution, it evolves iteratively. And so for me, that the truth will set you free. I think there's a big piece around I absolved myself of responsibility for my own life. So, well, my life is like this because of X, Y, and Z. But the truth is, we do get to create the life we really want. There's just a shitload of work required to do so. And if I'm responsible for my life, which I am, then the fact it will piss me off first is I have to recognize my part to play in it. And so interestingly, I don't think there is a single truth for individuals. It's how it lands with their life. And once we find these truths, once we acknowledge what is of the universe and how the universe is working, then we are free of the stories and restrictions that we have been telling ourselves. We're not free of challenge. We're not free of pain. We're not free of suffering. We're not free of having to work hard to create what we want. But it feels to me like we're free of the limits, the self-imposed limits of being certain we know what's going on when we don't.
And I guess I'm thinking about the things that I've got stuck on in my life, like you said, because of narrow-mindedness, or because I was quite righteous in thinking that is the way. Getting stuck on it, obsessed about certain things, and then going like, however, whenever I've got through whatever that is, going, oh my God, what a freaking waste of time that was. And I spent so much time like being stuck there. And that's where the freedom comes from, the surrender to, okay, that opens up a bit more. There's more space. It becomes a bit lighter. You know, your awareness starts to grow a bit, which then I guess then supports you moving on to another one, that you then another stumbling block, as it were, that you're like, oh, I thought this was real. This is the way it is. Actually, not. It's not. And some things are like, you know, because we have such lack of knowledge of a certain subject in itself, not just because of the esoterical extra and the, you know, the universe. It's like, actually, you know, like you said, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, you know. It's that, and that in itself is freeing, because you think, well, I'm not meant to know it all anyway. So that kind of, for me, was a big like pressure was off. Because I think as a kid, I used to think I should know all of this. Like, you go to school to learn, right? Like, we were talking about school earlier, weren't we? But like, you know, I used to get so upset that I didn't know it. Well, no, that's the whole point. You're being taught, but I thought I was meant to already know it. You know, like, I'm meant to know this stuff. So it would then hinder me, rather than going, oh no, actually, you learn that, and then actually, and if you're going with school next year, next term, you're going to learn something else. And that's with everything in life. That's not just schooling. It's just like, because it's continuous.
And I think for me it was one of those, the realization that the things we believe and the things we believe to be true have nothing to do with objective truth. You know, I talk about our blueprints, and our blueprints automate our reactions to what is happening to us and around us. Those automations are shaped by the things we believe and believe to be true. But all they're doing is stabilizing the world. We crave certainty, and we live in a chaotic world. If we had to analyze everything every day, we'd never get anything done. We'd never leave the house. So our beliefs and truths are simply stabilizers and predictors of the future for us, so we can move through our day. If our lives are not what we want them to be, if we are unhappy, if we are struggling in certain areas, then the stabilizers we have are not serving us. And that is a truth that can set us free. But it doesn't set us free from the work of figuring it all out. So, anything you would like to add? Because I am going to enforce strict short times on these.
No, I think it's fascinating. I'll be interested to know what our listeners how
this stuff lands.
I really will be.
So we would love to hear your thoughts, just as a final reminder of contemplation. The truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. We would love to hear your thoughts on this. We are you can get in touch with the show at handsupifyou'rehuman@gmail.com. If you are interested, you can download the companion book of Inalienable and Often Inconvenient Truths. It's a free download. It's on my website, so you can visit wyndhamjames.com. And after about 30 seconds, I think there's a pop-up. You join my newsletter. Just to put everybody's mind at rest, I've never sent a newsletter. I hate the fact so many come into my inbox. So I am yet to do one. I may in the future, but I promise they will not be bombarding you. But you will then get a link that you can then download this book for free, so you can have some time to contemplate these. We're going to do one of these every other week, and there are 50 to get through. So we would love to hear what you think. Please email the show. Please rate, review, share. We love doing these, and we want to make them as useful as possible. And we will see you next time. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, darling. Take care.